Stasis actually got a lot of buffs this season, and it's made one of the best in-game Warlock builds even better. This build is going to allow you to freeze entire battlefields without you having to do literally anything, and having a very fun weapon to shatter a bunch of enemies just to see everything explode. This build is normal and in-game content ready and does take advantage of some seasonal mods, but you do not have to run them if you don't want to, and I will go over all that later in the video. So jump right into it, let's start off with our Stasis subclass, and let's start talking about cold snap grenades, which did get a little change. It's not the biggest thing in PvE, but your cold snap grenades should track to enemies a little bit easier now if you are going to be throwing them like that. Another buff is that slow stacks are going to apply a little bit faster now, so that means freezing enemies are now going to be even easier once you're slowing them down a lot. And then finally, the final buff is that Whisper of Rending is now going to work with all primary ammo weapons instead of just kinetic weapons. Before, it only worked with kinetic primary weapons. The wording was extremely weird, but they have now changed it so every single weapon that shoots primary ammo will get this damage bonus. This is around a 43% damage increase, so that's actually a relatively large increase. So the point of this build is to spam as many grenades as possible to freeze everything on the battlefield, and the way we're going to be doing that is with the Ozymancy gloves. So we have the exotic perk Fevered Cold Snap. Your cold snap grenades have an additional charge that recharge quicker on direct impact. The seeker spawn for cold snap grenades travels further. So this actually has two pretty cool interactions. If you are using the cold snap grenade for just throwing it, it will track further. It makes it even easier to freeze enemies. And on top of that, if you throw the cold snap grenade and hit a target before it lands on the ground, you will also get a huge chunk of energy back. This is pretty much the preferred way to use these in normal quick content, but this definitely can also be used in in-game content because it is pretty much just guarantees you a freeze. Now the other benefit is where this will just provide an additional cold snap grenade, so you're going to have two instead of one. And that is going to play heavily into our aspects, where as you saw earlier, we're going to be taking the Bleak Watcher. This is going to let you hold down your grenade and basically be able to throw a stasis turret. The stasis turret lasts a while. This is definitely way better in prolonged engagements. If you're in a long fight, stasis turrets are for sure going to be better than just throwing the cold snap grenade. So you can throw a bunch of these out. You're going to slow enemies, which are going to be even easier to freeze now, and then you can just shatter them all and nothing will be able to kill you. You can use Bleak Watcher in normal content, but honestly, it's just not that needed to do that. So I would always recommend just throwing the cold snap grenade pretty much 24/7. But if you are in a raid scenario, or like I said, just any other longer engagement, Bleak Watchers are 100% the way to go. They help your whole team, they last forever, and they can just freeze everything. Now to help out with freezing stuff, I am also going to be running Ice Flare Bolts. So this means whenever I shatter a frozen target, it is going to spawn a seeker that freezes other targets nearby. So now everything I'm freezing, when I kill them, they're also going to spawn seekers, kind of like cold snap grenades, that will go out and freeze more targets, and it just lets you keep the whole battlefield frozen 24/7. Now for fragments, I'm going to be running Whisper of Fissures. So this increases the damage and size of the burst of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. This means all those targets I'm freezing now, they're going to explode even more. It makes the ad clear better. You're doing a little bit more damage if you're freezing a boss over and over again with your stasis turret, so it's adding some extra shatter damage, which is very nice. And overall, it is just a very fun fragment to use. And I'm also going to be running Whisper of Durance. So slow for your ability lasts longer. For those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase. So this is going to make it when my stasis turret shoot enemies, the slow on them is going to last longer. It'll stay on them longer, so that means the stasis turret can shoot again, which will eventually freeze the enemy. And on top of that, this will also increase the duration of your Bleak Watcher turret by a little bit. But since Bleak Watcher is an ability that lingers, it does add a little bit of additional time to it. But then I'm going to be running Whisper of Torment. So you're getting grenade energy each time you take damage from your targets. So since this build is all about is getting grenades back as much as possible, when you're taking damage, this is going to let you refill that grenade energy, which is going to be very, very nice. So you can throw another cold snap or another Bleak Watcher out wherever you need it. We've already went over Whisper of Rending, but this is going to be that damage increase to all your primary weapons to enemies that are frozen, or if there's a stasis crystal on the battlefield. Now this is the most important change and the most important thing you need to run on this build, and that is because we're going to be running Fighting Lion. As you saw from the title, Shatter Lion, this is honestly a very cool interaction because Fighting Lion is a grenade launcher that actually shoots primary ammo. This does actually give a damage increase to Whisper of Rending. So this means now instead of having, your traditional hand cannon, scout rifle, etc., you now have a grenade launcher that is getting that increased damage, which pretty much lets you one-shot any of your frozen targets pretty much everywhere in the game. Now, the Fighting Lion on its own also has some cool interactions that I want to go over, and that is its perk Thin the Herd. So this is actually going to do more damage to combatant shields, which will play heavily into our mod, which I'll get into later, and dealing damage with weapons also going to increase the reload speed. This means you can spam these much faster. On top of that, if you do get rapid final blows with it, it will reload the magazine too. And then another great thing is the Fighting Lion Catalyst if you have it. So after you fire this weapon, your kinetic and power weapons have insane handling. You just swap to them very fast. They have increased accuracy, which helps out with weapons like bait and switch. This is going to allow you to easily shoot this, swap to your primary weapon, and then swap over to a heavy weapon with things like bait and switch. Even if you don't want to do that, run something like Taipan. Any heavy is going to be great for you. You can just shoot it, swap over to it really fast, start doing a lot of damage. This also pairs extremely well in the current season with the Weaken Clear mod. Weaken Clear does actually work with Fighting Lion. So when you shoot an enemy with Fighting Lion or a grenade launcher, you will get a 15% damage increase for around 20 seconds. So this means you can shoot an enemy with Fighting Lion, rock the exotic catalyst, they're debuffed, swap over to your heavy weapon, and start destroying them very, very quickly. Now, this is probably the first time in a long time I've ever ran a double primary build, and I honestly would just recommend doing that because you don't really need special ammo since your Fighting Lion's kind of doing all the work for you. And this is also going to allow you to take additional champion mods. Now, personally, I like to run Tears of Contrition, but you can swap this out to whatever you want to. I just like running a scout rifle because it does have overload season. And if you run mods like low entropy superconductor right here, that is a mouthful. This is going to let you unstop enemies with a stasis melee ability. So the main reason I would use my stasis melee is just to stun unstoppable champions. Alongside that, I can overload champions. And stasis pretty much has intrinsic anti-barrier. Sure, you cannot break the shields, but you can keep freezing enemies over and over again so they can never actually deploy that shield, and you never have to worry about anti-barrier champions. So in a way, this build does have all 3 champion mods going for it too, alongside being able to shatter everything with Fighting Lion. Now, get into our mods and stats. 100 resilience, 100 discipline for sure the way to go. 100 resilience for survivability, 100 discipline so you can get your grenade back as much as possible. If you have some extra stats, I would definitely recommend going 100 strength with this build specifically so you can try to stun as many unstoppable champions as possible with low entropy superconductor this current season. But if you want to run recovery to get that health back and get your rift back fast, you can also do that. Now, this is going to have the same theme as my Hunter Stasis build that I posted the other day. We're going to be running a Charger Light mod alongside running a bunch of firepower mods. So I'm going to be running Blast Radius so you become Charger Light by rapidly defeating multiple combatants with grenade launchers or rocket launchers. Since Fighting Lion is a grenade launcher that shoots primary ammo, you have infinite ammo with it, and this will also proc Blast Radius. So this means you get 2 kills with Fighting Lion, occasionally 3 kills. You are going to have Charger Light proc, which is extremely easy to do, and then that is going to play heavily into our other mods, which is firepower. So while Charger Light, you're gaining a portion of your grenade energy when you use your grenade, consuming 1 stack of Charger Light. So you can get up to 2 stacks of Charger Light, and that's obviously going to be very good because if you're running double grenades, that means you're always going to get this grenade energy back. And on my other armor, I'm literally running all firepower mods, which means you get around 50 to 60% of your grenade energy back when you throw it. So that is essentially letting your Osneomancy gloves, if you are throwing only Bleak Watchers, so you're not getting any of that grenade energy back from its exotic trait, you have 3 Bleak Watchers now to throw at any given time instead of 2. Now, I would definitely not recommend throwing 3. I would definitely be conservative with it. Just throw out 1, maybe 2 if you need them. Let your grenade recharge over time, and then you can start spamming them even more again. But if you are playing it correctly, you should never have any downtime on a Bleak Watcher turret whatsoever. And if you are just throwing the cold snap grenades, you can literally have 100% uptime 24/7 if you are hitting those enemies before it lands on the ground. You just need to make sure that you are Charger Light before you throw a grenade. So just make sure you are getting kills with Fighting Lion, but you're always doing that 24/7 anyway, because you're shattering every single enemy with things like Whisper of Rending. Now, I do want to point out that I'm running a linear fusion ammo finder. So this means I'm going to find more ammo for my heavy weapon. You can obviously change this out to whatever heavy weapon you're running, but this is actually very nice since I am running a primary ammo exotic, which means this will spawn it more often. And then obviously throwing on a scavenger for that is also going to work very well too, so you could pick up as much ammo as possible. So running things like a rocket scavenger and a rocket ammo finder is very, very beneficial. You can have a ton of rockets with this build as well. Right now, I just have a recuperation slotted in, so if somebody does make orbs, I can just pick them up and get some health. but I can change this out whenever I need to. Now, I also would highly recommend running a grenade launcher loader. It just makes the playstyle a little bit better for me. If you don't think you need it and you could deal with the slower reload, you can for sure change this out to other mods that work for you, but I really enjoy it, and it makes the build a lot more fun to use. And then, like I said earlier, I am running Overload Scout. You can change this to whatever you want to, but I like having the Overload Scout with intrinsic anti-variant away alongside your unstoppable melee. Now, I am running a energy diffusion substrate alongside concussive dampener for some damage reduction. And like I said earlier, you don't have to run these seasonal mods. If you want to take out weak and clear for other things, you can for sure do that. You can run pretty much anything. Things like bombers could be good to get your grenade back as fast as possible. Taking some additional stats where if you need it, it's also going to be really good. You will lose the intrinsic unstoppable for your melee, but you can always change that out whatever primary weapon you're running, since these are always going to change every single season anyway. And you can also just take a normal defense mod if you want to do that as well. But you should definitely take advantage of the seasonal mods while the season is around, because it makes Fine Line very fun to use. It is extremely easy to just weaken everything, shatter everything with the buffed Whisper of Rending, and also just being able to just control an entire battlefield and let them not barely do any damage to you. And when they actually do manage to do damage to you, you do get some great energy back to make them not do damage to you. It's very fun. I would highly recommend you all try it out because I think you all will enjoy it. But all right, that's pretty much this Stasis build. There's a lot of different ways you can run Stasis, and I probably will make more future builds involving all around things like Headstone, because Headstone is such a fun perk to play around. But if you guys would like to try this specific build out, I will have a dim link to it in the description below. If you all enjoy and learn anything new, consider subscribing and drop a like, turns notifications on. Also, if you'd like to join my Discord or follow me on any of my socials, all that will be linked in the description as well. But just know watching this video is way more than enough, and that every single bit of support from you all is truly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching this one, and have a great day. Peace.